You just picked up a Tesla. Maybe it's a Model 3, maybe a Model Y, Model S, or Model X. Doesn't matter. What does matter is that right now, without realizing it, a lot of new owners are doing things to these cars that chip away at the battery, shrink the range, and quietly rack up repair costs they never saw coming. I've spent years around electric vehicles, talking to long-term Tesla owners, going through service records, and watching what separates the people who get 200,000 miles out of these cars from the ones who are back in the service bay every few months. And I'm going to walk you through 10 of the most common mistakes, counting down from 10 to 1, so you know exactly what to avoid. Stick around for number 1. That one genuinely catches people off guard. Let's go. Mistake 10. Using the wrong cleaning products on the interior. We'll start with something that sounds minor but adds up faster than most people expect. Tesla's interior, especially the vegan leather on the seats, the door panels, and the steering wheel, looks premium, and it is, but customers often come in having treated it like a kitchen counter. Standard household cleaning wipes, the kind you grab for your countertops or bathroom surfaces, contain detergents and antimicrobials that are specifically designed to break down oils and organic matter. Those same chemicals work on Tesla's synthetic leather. What usually happens is the material starts drying out after a few months of regular wiping. Then it gets a slightly faded look. Then it starts to crack around the bolster edges where there's the most friction. By the time someone brings it to a shop, the damage is already done, and it's cosmetic, so warranty doesn't touch it. The steering wheel goes even faster because your hands are on it constantly. Alcohol-based wipes especially break down the texture on the wheel. I've seen Model 3 steering wheels that looked 5 years older than the car because the owner was using disinfectant wipes during the pandemic years and never stopped. Plain water and a microfiber cloth handle most cleaning. For tougher spots on the seats, a very mild diluted soap solution. Nothing with bleach, nothing with ammonia. And if you have young kids and you're putting child seats directly on the Tesla upholstery, put a seat cover underneath. The pressure and the friction from the plastic base permanently indent the material over time. It's one of those things where you don't notice it until you take the seat out and see the crease left behind. Mistake 9. Slamming the frunk and forcing the frameless windows. This is one where experience from a traditional car background actually works against Tesla owners. The habits you built over years of driving a gas car don't transfer cleanly here. Take the frunk, the front trunk. On the Model 3 and Model Y especially, the hood is noticeably lighter than a conventional car hood. There's no engine underneath adding weight, so it doesn't have that satisfying thud when it drops. What I've seen happen is owners try to close it the same way they'd close a regular hood, with a firm push or a small slam. Over time, that damages the latch mechanism, misaligns the panel gaps, and degrades the rubber seals around the edges. The seal damage is particularly annoying because it can let road noise and water vapor into the front compartment, and figuring out why that's happening isn't always obvious. The frameless windows are a different issue entirely, but just as common a source of problems. Tesla's door windows are designed to drop slightly the moment you pull the door handle, creating clearance to open and close without a frame scraping the seal. When you close the door, the window reseats itself automatically. If you force the door shut before that motorcycle completes, especially if you're in a hurry, you're repeatedly stressing the window motor and the seal channel. Over time, that leads to wind noise around the window edge, and in worse cases, seal failure that takes multiple service visits to properly diagnose and fix. Closing both correctly takes maybe an extra half second. People who come from BMWs or similar frameless window cars usually already know this, but if you're jumping from a regular sedan or SUV, it takes a few weeks to build the new habit. Mistake 8. Ignoring software updates. A lot of people treat Tesla's over-the-air updates the way they treat app updates on their phone, something to dismiss until later or leave pending for weeks. That approach works on your phone. On a Tesla, it can quietly cost you real performance. Tesla's software updates aren't just new features or interface tweaks. Some of them include changes to the battery management algorithms, how the car charges, how it balances the cells, how it estimates range. In my experience talking to owners, the ones who consistently delay updates sometimes notice their range estimates becoming less accurate over time, or their charging behavior getting slightly less predictable. What they don't realize is that some of those calibration improvements were already pushed in an update they never installed. There's also a safety dimension. Tesla has addressed autopilot behavior, braking response, and traction control tuning through software updates, Running an outdated version means you might be missing a fix that's already been deployed to thousands of other vehicles. The practical issue is that updates need a stable Wi-Fi connection to download, and they install when the car is parked, ideally plugged in. A lot of owners park on the street away from their home router, or they don't connect the car to Wi-Fi at all. Worth taking 5 minutes to set that up. And if you're in a cold climate, there's an added wrinkle. Attempting a major update when the battery is very cold can slow the process significantly, and in unusual cases where it interrupts mid-install, it creates a headache that requires service center involvement. Scheduling updates on mild nights when the car is plugged in and inside a garage is the cleanest approach. Mistake 7. Skipping tire rotations. This is probably the most consistently overlooked maintenance item on Teslas, and the one that leads to the most preventable out-of-pocket spending. Here's what most owners don't account for. Teslas are heavier than comparable gas cars, primarily because of the battery pack weight integrated into the floor. That extra mass accelerates tire wear across the board. On top of that, the instant torque delivery, which is what makes these cars feel so fast off the line, puts more stress on the rear tires, specifically during acceleration. What usually develops is a situation where the rear tires are wearing measurably faster than the fronts. And because nobody's checking regularly, by the time it's obvious the rears are worn down, the gap in tread depth between front and rear is too large to correct with rotation alone. At that point, you're replacing tires prematurely. Tesla recommends rotating every 6,250 miles. Some EV-focused shops I've talked to suggest doing it closer to every 5,000 to 6,000 on the Performance and AWD variants. The cost of a rotation is minimal. The cost of a full set of Tesla-approved performance tires, which often run $200 to $300 each, is not. There's also a range implication that doesn't get talked about enough. As tires wear unevenly, rolling resistance increases asymmetrically across the axles, which the car's efficiency system has to compensate for. That shows up as slightly worse energy consumption over time. It's subtle, but real. And it's something I've noticed when comparing efficiency data on well-maintained versus neglected tire setups on similar vehicles. Mistake 6. Skipping preconditioning in cold weather. Winter catches Tesla owners off guard more than almost anything else. Not because something is broken, but because they don't understand how the battery behaves in cold temperatures. What usually happens is someone wakes up on a cold morning, gets in, and immediately tries to drive aggressively or head straight to a supercharger. The range is already showing significantly lower than usual. The regenerative braking feels sluggish or shows as limited on the display. And at the supercharger, the car charges at a fraction of the speed they expected. I've talked to plenty of owners who thought something was wrong with their car the first time they experienced this. Cold batteries need time to warm up before they perform properly. That's just lithium-ion chemistry. The good news is Tesla built a tool specifically for this. Preconditioning, accessible through the app, or using the scheduled departure feature. When you run preconditioning while the car is still plugged into a level 2 charger, the car pulls power from the grid to warm the battery pack, not from the stored charge. That's an important distinction. You're not burning your range to warm the car, you're using the charger to do it. You leave with a warm battery, close to your full expected range, and full regenerative braking available from the first mile. The supercharger situation has its own specific fix. If you navigate to the supercharger through the Tesla's built-in navigation before you leave, the car begins conditioning the battery automatically on the route there. Without that navigation step, the car doesn't know you're heading to a supercharger and won't precondition. Owners who skip navigation and then arrive at a supercharger with a cold pack can sit there waiting for the charge rate to climb for 10 to 15 minutes before they see anything close to peak speed. One more thing on cold weather. Tire pressure drops roughly 1 psi for every 10-degree Fahrenheit drop in ambient temperature. A significant cold snap can quietly take your tires from properly inflated to meaningfully underinflated overnight. That affects handling, range efficiency, and long-term tire wear. Check pressure when cold weather sets in. Mistake 5. Parking in direct sunlight and ignoring heat management. Heat does more gradual damage to Tesla batteries than most owners realize, and the frustrating part is that it doesn't announce itself. There's no warning light for your battery aged faster this summer. Lithium-ion cells have a thermal comfort zone. When a Tesla sits in a hot parking lot, especially in climates like Arizona or Nevada, where summer ambient temperatures regularly reach 110 degrees or higher, the battery management system kicks in to cool the pack. That cooling requires power drawn from the battery itself, so the car is consuming charge just to protect itself while you're inside working. Come back 4 hours later and you've lost range you didn't drive anywhere. The bigger issue is cumulative. A study tracking Model Y owners in hot climates found measurably faster early capacity loss compared to owners in temperate regions. The degradation isn't sudden. It's a slow erosion that shows up when someone compares their 2-year-old range estimates to what they were getting at delivery. Where a lot of people go wrong is charging to 80% first thing in the morning and then leaving the car sitting in full sun for 8 hours at that high state of charge. High charge combined with high heat accelerates cell aging more than either factor does alone. If you know you're parking somewhere hot for most of the day, it's worth timing your charge to finish closer to when you leave rather than completing hours before. It's a setting available in the Tesla app under scheduled charging. Using cabin overheat protection is a reasonable measure, but understand it draws battery power to run the HVAC system. In extreme heat over a long park, it can consume a few percent of charge. That's fine. It's protecting the interior and helping moderate the overall thermal load, but it's not free. Mistake 4. Draining the battery to zero. Most owners know not to do this in theory. In practice, it happens more often than people admit, usually during a longer trip where range anxiety kicks in and the planning was off by a bit. When a Tesla's state of charge hits zero and the car shuts down to protect itself, the cells are in a stressed condition that takes time and careful charging to recover from. What I've seen in data from owners who've run their packs completely flat and left them that way for even a day or two is that the battery management system sometimes struggles to recalibrate properly afterward. Range estimates become unstable, wildly optimistic in one direction, then suddenly pessimistic. In a few documented cases, the car has refused to accept a charge after a full deep discharge and required Tesla support intervention just to bring it back online. There's a chemical reality here too. Lithium-ion cells that are discharged past a certain threshold undergo changes at the electrode level that permanently reduce how much charge they can hold. It doesn't happen dramatically in one incident, but repeated deep discharges compound. The 20% warning Tesla gives you isn't just a buffer for comfort, it's protecting the lowest stress operating window for those cells. The practical advice from owners who've put 300,000 plus miles on their Teslas is consistent. Treat 20% as your real-world floor, not as a suggestion. Plan longer routes with charging stops before you're in the single digits. And if you're going to park the car for an extended period, a trip, storage, whatever, don't leave it below 20%. Leave it around 50%, plugged in if possible, so the battery management system can maintain the pack without stressing it. Mistake 3. Relying on superchargers for daily charging. Tesla's supercharger network is genuinely impressive, over 75,000 stations globally, and the newer V3 chargers can push serious kilowatts. For road trips, it's one of the best ownership advantages a Tesla offers. But using it as your default daily charger is a different situation. DC fast charging pushes high current into the battery quickly, and that speed generates heat inside the pack. The battery management system handles it, and Tesla has done a lot of work to manage this well. But the thermal cycling from repeated high-speed charging sessions adds up differently than the gentler, lower-rate overnight charge from a Level 2 home charger. Owners who supercharge exclusively, particularly those who do it daily because they don't have a home charging setup, tend to see slightly faster capacity loss over the long run compared to those who primarily use Level 2 at home. There's also a cost angle that's easy to miss. Supercharging rates vary by location and time of day, but in most markets they're meaningfully more expensive per kilowatt hour than home electricity. A driver who supercharges daily instead of charging at home can easily spend several $100s more per year than they need to. A Level 2 home charger, even accounting for the installation cost, pays for itself within a year or two for most people. One thing worth knowing: Tesla's own supercharger system sometimes automatically caps your charge at 80% at busy stations to reduce congestion and protect the cars on the network. That's by design. It's the network effectively telling you that 80% is the right stopping point for a fast charge session. Get what you need and move on. For daily use, that philosophy should carry over to home charging too. Mistake 2. Charging to 100% every single day. This is something almost every new Tesla owner does for the first few months. And it's one of the habits that's hardest to break because the car never tells you it's a problem. You just wake up, see a full battery, and feel good about the day. The damage is invisible until it isn't. Here's what's actually happening. Lithium-ion battery cells, the chemistry used in most Tesla models, hold charge through electrochemical reactions at the cell level. Keeping those cells at maximum charge for extended periods, meaning fully charged and then sitting idle, causes what's known as calendar aging. The cells degrade not from use, but from sitting under stress. The longer a fully charged battery sits in that state, especially in warm conditions, the faster that process moves. Tesla's own guidance and the data from high-mileage owners consistently points to 80% as the right daily ceiling for NCA and NMC chemistry packs, which covers most Model S, Model X, and many Model 3 and Model Y vehicles. Some high-mileage owners deliberately shoot for 70% on days when they don't need the full range. The owners with 400,000 and 500,000 miles, who still have their original battery packs, tend to be the ones who treated 80% as their ceiling religiously for years. There's a chemistry-specific exception worth knowing. The rear-wheel drive Model 3 since around 2022 uses a lithium iron phosphate, or LFP pack. LFP has a different degradation profile and actually benefits from regular full charges to help the battery management system calibrate properly. Tesla's own recommendation for LFP is to charge to 100% at least once a week. So before you change your charging behavior, check your battery type in your vehicle settings, because the right answer is genuinely different depending on which chemistry you have. Mistake 1. Ignoring the undercarriage and scraping the battery pack. This is the one that can turn a perfectly good Tesla into a very expensive problem. And in my experience, it's the mistake that blindsides owners the most completely, because it often happens in a totally ordinary situation. Tesla's battery pack is embedded into the floor of the vehicle. It's structural. It's part of the chassis. That design is what gives Teslas their low center of gravity and excellent handling balance. But it also means the pack sits closer to the ground than almost any component in a traditional car. The underbody shield that protects it is designed primarily for aerodynamics and light debris. It is not designed to absorb a solid impact from a steep speed bump at normal speed, a chunk of ice falling off a truck, or the lip of a parking garage ramp. What usually happens is the owner hits something, often something they barely registered in the moment, and the car keeps driving fine. No warning lights, no obvious change in behavior. They get home, go about their day. Then, days or weeks later, a warning appears on the screen, or the car won't charge, or it just doesn't turn on. That's because damage to the coolant lines running through the battery pack can be slow to manifest. The coolant leaks gradually, the thermal management system loses efficiency, and eventually the high-voltage battery management system detects a fault and shuts the pack down to prevent a thermal event. At that point, the repair bill is typically somewhere between $12,000 and $20,000 depending on the model. And here's the part that makes it particularly painful. Tesla's battery warranty explicitly excludes damage from external factors. Road debris, physical impact, undercarriage scrapes, all classified as external damage. There are documented cases of owners with vehicles under 20,000 miles having $17,000 battery replacements denied under warranty because of an undercarriage strike. The warranty covers defects, not physical damage, and that distinction is absolute in Tesla's documentation. The fix isn't complicated, but it requires changing how you move through certain environments. Approach speed bumps slowly and at a slight angle that distributes the contact differently than hitting one straight on at speed. Be cautious on steep driveway entrances. Avoid parking spots with concrete wheel stops if your approach angle is steep. In climates where ice forms on roads, be aware that road debris is less visible and more common. Some owners in rough road areas have added aftermarket underbody protection plates specifically designed for Tesla models. It's an aftermarket category that exists because this is a known vulnerability. The battery pack is the most valuable single component in any Tesla. It deserves to be treated that way on the road, not just in how you charge it. That's all 10, and if there's a theme running through all of them, it's this. Tesla's reward owners who pay attention to the details. The charging habits, the parking decisions, the maintenance schedule, the way you treat the interior. None of these things are difficult. They just require knowing they matter in the first place. If something in this video was new to you, drop it in the comments. I'm curious which one catches people most off guard. Like the video if it was useful, and subscribe if you want to keep seeing content like this. See you in the next one.